Hey everyone, it's Warriors NRL Fanatics. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. And this afternoon, I've got a very special guest joining me. I've got Keith Whitelock, who used to run the Everything Rugby League website and the Facebook page. And you've got him to come on and have a chat about all things footy, rugby league related. Look, I was originally supposed to have Hold the Ball and Ash Thomas on. Unfortunately, Hold the Ball can't make it on the stream tonight for the show, so hopefully get him on in the next couple of weeks when he's available. And Ash was supposed to come on as well, but unfortunately he has come down with the flu, the sickness. So hopefully he has a speedy recovery there. But hello to everyone in the chat. Hope you're all doing well. Before getting into it, don't forget to give this live stream a like. Make sure you click that thumbs up button. And also, if you haven't done so already and you're a new viewer to the channel, please make sure you are subscribing to the YouTube channel as well. Hello to Jacko and hello to Tahi, bro. How's it going? Hope you both are doing well in the live chat as well. And make sure you guys also give the stream a share as well. Don't forget to share the live stream, share the video as well. Keith, it's great to have you back on the channel. For the first time this year, actually, I haven't had you on the channel this year, actually. I have had you on a couple of times before, and it's always great to have your inside knowledge of the game of rugby league. So it's good to have you on, Keith. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, doing very well. I've been a bit quieter this year on the sort of social media or content creation front, but it's always a privilege to come on this awesome channel. Whirlwind year for all Warriors fans, which I'm sure we'll get to. But pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and hello to Greg. Hi, Greg. Hope you're doing well yourself. Hi from New Zealand. There's Greg. Hope you are doing great over there. But yeah, let's get into it. So this is the panel show. We've done this before. Actually, did this a couple of weeks ago. We've had Hold the Ball and Ash on, and this show is basically just purely discussion stream, chatting all things Warriors, rugby league related. And if you guys got any questions, feel free to put them into the chat. If you want to ask Keith any questions, ask me some questions. Feel free to put them in the chat as well. We'll answer your questions and read your comments out on the screen there as well. But getting into it, so we'll get into it. So starting off with the NRL, bit of a recap last week. So we had a few massive results and surprising upsets, but obviously with the Origin period, a lot of those teams were affected with Origin, especially the likes of the Cowboys as well, and quite a few others. But Keith, what are your overall thoughts? What are your overall thoughts on the round last week, with a number of upsets, and what are your thoughts on the season so far in the NRL after 13 rounds of the competition, and any team that has surprised you so far in regards to the competition as a whole?
Well, firstly, with the round, I got 0 from 5 in the work tipping competition, so I'm not in a very good place to talk in that regard. But that just goes to show the unpredictability of the NRL competition. I mean, it's an incredibly tight competition. You have no idea who's going to win. I mean, it's not helped by Origin stars being out, and then you got sort of that goes to. I mean, you could argue it goes to the integrity of the competition to a certain degree as well. But yeah, fantastic round of football. I think for me, the highlight was that Dolphins Raiders game. Obviously, unfortunately, rain put a dampener on some of those games, suppressed the crowds, and sort of ensured a few more mistakes than your average sort of dry weather football. And secondly, the season so far, it's been an absolutely phenomenal season. Not so much for us Warriors fans, but outside of the Warriors, it's been I mean, this is not sort of my chain of thought. This is probably well written by now, but the momentum that the opening games in Las Vegas created, it's kind of like, last year and this year, and I don't just say this because I'm a Warriors fan. I say this because the TV ratings and, measure many, many metrics that we can use as measurements. But it's like rugby league is all of a sudden cool again, which is the first time in a long, long time. It's dominating as a code here in Australia. Easily the most watched code of any of the sports here in Australia. I think they were millions ahead of the AFL in terms of viewers, despite the fact that the AFL has one extra game per round. Attendances were averaged over 20,000 last year for the first time in the game's history, which is phenomenal. And closer to home, in terms of the Warriors, we're about to see almost certainly a team sell out every single home game of an NRL season, which is an astonishing achievement and one that shouldn't be overlooked. I've never seen anything like it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and what are your general feelings on how the season's gone so far? Like which team do you at the moment do you think is the team to beat? Is it still Penrith, or do you think Penrith are beatable? Because there's been some results. Penrith have we lost to the Warriors only a couple of weeks ago, and then they lost to the Dragons, who the fact that was a surprising result, although Penrith had a few outs. Are there any teams that have really shocked you, like the Sharks or the teams like that? Are there any shocks at the moment, like teams you expect to do well?
Yeah, I think Canberra shocked me.
Yeah.
At the start of the year, I had them in my bottom 4, and now they're in the top 6. I think Ricky Stewart's learnt from. He's been a coach for a good 20 years now. Obviously, his NRL sort of first stint was with the Roosters, and if you hear him talk over the years, he said that one of his regrets about his tenure with the Roosters is that he didn't recognize when to overhaul the roster, and he was too loyal to those proven players that were getting a little bit older. And with the Raiders side that I looked at in the preseason, it was almost like he'd overcompensated and gone too far the other way. But now looking at this Raiders side and what they're doing, the grit that they're playing with, and the just talent from the younger stars, they've really surprised me. And I think there's a huge future for the Raiders, if any Raiders fans listen to this as well. In terms of the Sharks, I wouldn't say they've surprised me,
Mm.
because they did this a couple of years ago when they finished second, or 3 years ago now, I think.
Yeah.
And then they went out in straight sets in the finals. Cowboys did it the year after, I think, also finished second in 2022, I believe, and didn't really put a dent in the top 8 system. So the Sharks are still an unproven commodity for me in terms of big games. And we saw that, I think it was a 42-0 thrashing against Penrith at Shark Park a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully they're there or thereabouts, but until they win big games or finals games, the Sharks are always going to have a huge question mark around them. But in saying that, the really positive thing about this competition is I just don't think that anyone's unbeatable. I don't think that, the Panthers are sitting in third. They've lost the past couple of weeks. Granted, Nathan Cleary's out, some Origin stars out in the game just gone against the Dragons. But the bottom teams have really come up, not to put pressure on the likes of the Storm or the Panthers, but to put pressure on sort of like there's a genuine sort of 14 teams there that could all beat each other on their day. And the biggest disappointment's obviously been the Rabbitohs. I had them sort of pushing towards the grand final, and right now I think they're in wooden spoon position. So who knows what's going to happen there.
Yeah, and every week it's quite hard, to tip every game. Like picking, if you're going to pick every game right, it'd be a huge surprise if you pick all the correct games in terms of tipping or betting or whatever. But every game of the season's been great to watch. There hasn't been too many blowouts and on one-sided scores. There has been a couple, but not too many as well, which is good, which is great for the competitiveness of the competition. But yeah, Jacko, just pointing out a comment here from Jacko in regards to the Warriors website that we have 3 points, whereas last year we were 13 points, whereas last year we were on 14 points. So very much the same. So apparently it's nothing too different to what it was last year, which is a comment there from Jacko there.
Well, that is we're a point behind on 13 points. And yeah, now that Jack has pointed that out, the 8th place Roosters are on 14 points. There's 5 teams on 14 points, and we're half a win behind them in 13th. So, I know it's probably a deeply flawed way of looking at it, but in some ways we're 1 point away from 8th position if you discount for and against. So, yeah, great point. I didn't realise that.
Yeah, so just looking at the ladder at the moment, the Storm are sitting on top spot on the ladder, 8 wins and 3 losses. They're on 20 points, and the Sharks are sitting in second on 9 wins and 3 losses. So both teams, well, the Storm have had 2 byes and the Sharks have had 1 bye. Penrith are sitting in third spot there on 18 points with 8 wins and 4 losses. The Dolphins sit fourth despite the loss on the weekend. They're sitting 7 wins and 5 losses. Broncos sit fifth on 7 wins and 5 losses. The Raiders, 7 wins and 5 losses in sixth. Manly sits seventh with 6 wins, 1 draw, and 5 losses, and the 1 bye. And then the Roosters sit in 8th spot with 7 wins and 6 losses there. So, what are your thoughts there on that top 8 there at the moment? So, do you look at that ladder and say which team will stay in there throughout the rest of the season? Which one's going to come out, or how do you see it? Because the Dogs are seeing 9th. They're on the improve, and the Cowboys have jumped up to 10th as well. So it's a big game for the Cowboys against the Warriors this week. It's a huge game for both teams, really, when you look at it, the ladder at the moment. So, yeah, how do you see that ladder at the moment? What are your general thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're all wondering if the Dolphins are going to do what they did last year, which is spend the first half of the season in a very, very high position, considering their roster and the age of their club, and then sort of get hit with injuries and the lack of depth due to their short turnaround time between when being announced and when coming into competition. Comes back to bite them in the bum. So the Dolphins, I don't think, will finish in the top 4. But the question is, will they finish in the top 8? Maybe. I don't know. They might well. Outside of that, I mean, sort of, we spoke about who surprises me compared to the start of the season. I guess the Sharks are a lot higher than what I thought they would be. But I think that they are a real top 4 chance at the end of the year. I can't see them falling away too badly. The Raiders, we've discussed, surprise packets in 6. Manly, a lot of sort of News Limited journalists in particular had Manly top 4. I never saw Manly as a top 4 team, top 8 maybe. So they're in 7th right now. It's not sort of surprising. I had them somewhere between 7 and 10. So where I thought they would be. Roosters, that loss to the Cowboys sort of hurt the Roosters a bit. They would have been, I think, if 4 and against is taken account, maybe as high as 4 or something like that above the Dolphins. Yeah, they would have been actually 4th, which goes to show how tight the competition is, given the fact that they lost to the Cowboys in the dying minutes and now they're in 8th. So I think the Roosters will really climb over the next couple of months. I've been to some Roosters games this year at that beautiful stadium, and I can tell you there's a real quality about that side. And as for the Bulldogs, just to round out the final comments that you made there in your question, fantastic to see them going really, really well. To me, they're redlining. They're playing with heart. They're playing all out, sort of die for the jersey footy, which is fantastic to see. But that can only get you so far. So I still don't have them in my 8.
Yep, and hello to Richard here in the chat. Yeah, hi guys. Very excited for the game this week. Up the wires. Hope you're both doing well. Hope you're doing well yourself, Richard. Good to see you in the chat, watching and tuning in. But yeah, just generally speaking, there's the ladder there for the NRL this season. So we'll get into the next topic I want to talk about now. So I'll just pop it up on the screen. Actually, first I'm going to recap this one here. So the New South Wales Cup and the Jersey Flag Cup, both teams played on the weekend down there in Sydney. And the Warriors New South Wales Cup team had a very good win, 24 points to 16, I believe it was, 24 to 16 there, to the New South Wales Cup side. And the Jersey Flag Cup side, under 21s, also had a win over the Roosters as well. So, yeah, great win by both teams. A shout out to those 2 teams as well who had a good result on the weekend as well. So, Keith, what do you do you follow much of the New South Wales Cup this year, or have you been keeping an eye?
Yeah, I follow a little bit of it. I saw the Warriors come from behind to beat the Roosters. That was a real quality game, and we showed some really good glimpses of the depth that we have, and some of the players like Jacob Latham, getting NRL experience this year. It really shines through in how confident they are now that they're back in New South Wales Cup. So for me, they're somewhere in between sort of too good for the New South Wales Cup, a couple of these players, but still very green when it comes to the NRL. But a fantastic win on the weekend. against the Roosters. And I went to North Sydney Oval a couple of weeks ago, which is the same weekend of Magic Round in the NRL. Now, I don't know if those that don't live in New South Wales know, but New South Wales Cup now has two versions of Magic Weekend, where all of the games are played in the one stadium. The first one's in Newtown, which is sort of that trendy inner city suburb. I don't know what the Auckland equivalent would be, Ponsonby maybe, but a little bit more sort of lefty with fire throwers and all these cool bars and stuff like that. So that's the first one. It's called the Beer, Food and Footy Festival. Gets a really big crowd. It's at Henson Park in Newtown, home of the Jets. And the second one, introduced for the first time this year, I believe, was the one that I went to a couple of weeks ago. That was at North Sydney Oval. North Sydney Oval is a fantastic boutique oval. Obviously, the old sort of home of the North Sydney Bears when they were in the competition. Now the home of the New South Wales Cup side. Unfortunately, it was raining all day, so that really suppressed the crowd. But a lot of breweries had, $7 tinnies and take your pick of, I think there's about 20 different breweries set up shop there. A lot of food stands, and it's great to see the Warriors get the win that day as well. So that was a really good one. It was a triple header on the Saturday.
Yep, and just pop into the chat again here. So Jacko's saying here, it'll be interesting to see who Webby selects. Which selects the many players back from injury. Yeah, we'll talk about that as well. And Ben Farr was outstanding in the Cup game since Jacko. He was. And Moala Graham Tafua as well, who scored 2 tries in that game against the Roosters as well. So if anyone hasn't seen it already, if anyone who hasn't seen the game, go and check out the highlights. I think Warriors Anonymous has posted it on their YouTube channel. So shout out to Warriors Anonymous podcast boys there. They've Gerard Cronin's put up the highlights, and he did some commentary for that game on the weekend. So massive shout out to him as well, and he does some great work there with their stuff. So go and check that out if you haven't checked that out already. And
we're 7th in the New South Wales Cup.
Yeah, he does. And Jazz is saying, greetings, everything's hope everyone's happy and well. Absolutely fizzing for the Cowboys game, definitely for sure. And we'll definitely talk about that game real soon. But just going off this next bit of chat as well coming up. So I want to ask you this one, Keith here. So the Warriors season after 13 rounds of the season. What are your overall thoughts on the value of the squad, and with the injuries we've had? So we've had a few young players step up over the past few weeks, and obviously our injury list has been well documented this season, especially with the amount of outs we've had. Keith, what are your thoughts here on this regards to the squad and how a lot of the younger players have stepped up and come in and played very well? You know, the likes of Tane Tuapiki at the back, Moala Graham Tafua as well made his debut for the Warriors. We've had Tamari Martin, as well. And we've had quite a few changes to the side over the last couple of weeks, especially with the injuries we've had. So, what are your thoughts here on on just how the squad's been coping with the depth at the moment?
Well, first of all, let's touch on the elephant in the room, which is at the start of the year, before a ball had been kicked in anger. Would us Warriors fans be happy with how we have gone at this stage of the season after 13 rounds? And the answer is probably not for the vast bulk of fans, myself included. Will we come back from here? I think so. I'm an optimist. I really think there's so much there. There's so many sort of factors that have gone against us. We lost that Melbourne game, which is absolutely heartbreaking. But if we didn't lose that Melbourne game, would be easily entrenched in the top 8, for example. So, we still have that foundation of quality players there. It's very interesting to see. It will be very interesting to see this game against the Cowboys, because the youngsters have shown what heart and energy and just want, how far those 3 ingredients will get you. With wins, obviously, against the Dolphins and the Panthers as well. So that might put a few players that sort of took their spot for granted on notice. But in saying that, I don't think that there's any player in our squad that really takes their their position for granted. We just have had so many things go wrong for us. I looked at the NRL physio, his Twitter page, and he compiled a ladder of it's called an injury ladder, missed games per club, and the Warriors are number 1 with 73 missed games from regular first graders at best 17. And then it drops down to the Cowboys on 68, then the Rabbits 62. And then you got to go all the way down to the bottom in 17, and that's the Panthers on 22. So there's no denying that injury has absolutely crueled our season to a certain degree in the first 13 rounds. But there's a big contingent of our key players coming back this weekend, or there should be. They're expected to be. So I think we can turn it around. The foundations are there. You don't just lose the talent overnight. It's easy to target SJ. But I guess in saying that, I would like to see SJ have captured the form of last year. He's not quite there yet. He's trying his heart out, of course. We need more diversity in our attack, which is something that every fan recognises. But it wasn't the attack that I was worried about during, those sort of 4 or 5 games where we went on that losing streak. It was our defence. I hadn't felt that lack of faith in our defence since basically Nathan Brown's days. That was the first time under Andrew Webster's reign where I was like, the other team just needs to get the ball in our 20 and they're going to score. Whereas in the past, let them have the ball in our 20. Our defence is that good. I lost faith in our attack during that time. So that's something that can't be ignored as well. But I think that optimistically, I think we're still top 8.
Yeah, well said there, because I was going to ask you about that in regards to what your thoughts are on because, the start of the season was quite a tricky bit of run there. And then we, we went on a 4-game losing streak. And then we lost quite a few players as well. And then my feeling was, how was this team going to cope? Because last year we were on such a high in 2023, and then for 2024 there's a lot of expectations, and there's a lot of expectations and pressure that comes from the fan base, from the club as a whole. So, Keith, at the moment, how do you feel in regards to the fact that there's so much expectation on the Warriors after 2023? What are your feelings on that?
I love it. I love it because I've always felt that unless we always felt that we were one of those clubs that needs to make a grand final and lose a grand final in order to win a grand final. And the reason for that is that State of Origin gives Australian players you can't underestimate the advantage that State of Origin, right in the middle of the season, provides for Australian-based eligible players for New South Wales and Queensland. Whereas most of the Warriors players either traditionally don't play State of Origin, largely due to being ineligible, and the ones that are eligible sort of out of sight, out of mind. So we lack big game experience. And then when it comes to the real crunch games in the final series, always felt like we were going to lose because we don't know. This is our first time playing in a big game. You look at 2011 where we made the top 8, and then we played Brisbane in week 1 and we got absolutely thrashed. I think they put 48 points on us. And then we learned from that big game, and then we won the next 2 and we made the grand final in 2011. So we would learn from the game against Brisbane, ironically, last year as well.
Yes.
And playing in front of sellout crowds every single home game with this kind of expectation every fortnight, that means a huge amount at the back end of the year, because you're used to playing in pressure games. It's not quite State of Origin, of course. We're never going to get rid of that advantage that Australian clubs have with a lot of State of Origin players, but it still means that we're used to playing in front of big crowds. So when that finals game comes round, it's not that different. Whereas if there are half full stadiums and then all of a sudden we're playing in front of 52,000 Suncorp Stadium again, and we sort of choke on the big occasion, or the pressure gets to us, I don't think that's going to happen, because every week we're playing in front of big crowds now and we're getting used to it.
Yep. And Jose has just put in a comment here that I think they've let themselves down a fair bit so far, but we're trending upwards now. and let's go the boys. Yeah, absolutely. I think the fact that we've looked at the first couple of games of the season, we had, that Melbourne game was probably a game where I felt like we probably could have really won that one. That was a game that got away. And then a couple of games we were scratchy. We just got through them and wins. We weren't convincing, and it was a pretty much a sign of concern where I thought, this is not really our best footy. We're getting the results, don't get me wrong, but we weren't showing that performance-wise. And then the Manly game, which we drawed to, we got away with the draw there. We're pretty fortunate to get away with that game because Manly outplayed us. They probably should have won that one. And then obviously we had the Knights game and the Titans game, which were very disappointing in terms of our performance, which was not, our usual standards. And then that Penrith game, I went to that Penrith game. As much as it pains me to say, I had no expectations. I just, was hoping we could, put in a good performance and be competitive. And then we won that game. We won that game, which was so typical of us, to go over there and win against Penrith against all odds, and then win against the Dolphins. The Dolphins top 4 team who are flying pretty well at the moment, doing well on the ladder. And we beat them. We quite have a few outs during the week. So look, after those 2 straight wins, it's two wins in a row, but we need to keep it going definitely for sure, because I'm looking at our next couple of weeks. It's quite crucial. Keith, what do you reckon on this one? Because our next few weeks we've got the Cowboys coming up, the Dogs, the Titans, the Broncos, the Storm, and then I think we got another bye. So what do you reckon there, Keith? How many wins do you think we should be aiming for, before that next bye? Because I think we definitely need to be aiming for at least five wins there.
Yeah, I guess we need to win more than we lose. That will keep us instead with the bottom of the 8. But in saying that, you'd like to see us. How many games did you just rattle off? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. So, look, I wouldn't be too disgruntled with 3 wins. I'd be over the moon at 4 and ecstatic at 5. We can't go 2 from 5. We just need to win. Very low baseline. I realize this. We need to win more than we lose, but. We've won those last 2 games with so many of our regular stars out that we had to completely overhaul our game plan. So you would have noticed that there was a lot fewer kicks to the, bombs that land right in the corner of the opposition goal line. It was sort of real back to basics footy with the energy getting us across the line over the past couple of weeks. So what can we possibly take from that when SJ, AFB, Wade Egan, Chance Nickel-Klukstad, etc. all come back hopefully this week? Do we go back to the original game plan that we were trying in the first 11 rounds and hope that we can be a bit more crisper and execution becomes a lot better? Or do we try and adapt some of that sort of simple footy or energy levels that the youngsters provided us? I don't know which style of footy that we're going to play this weekend. That's something I'm very, very curious about. And I guess that overflows to the next 5 rounds as well. I'm really hoping we can beat the Cowboys as a winnable game in my mind, even though we're paying $2.60 for the win versus Cowboys $1.50. I hate when we play the Storm, but we're playing them at home, which is good the week after. It's not fun to watch. Even if we win, it would just be sheer relief more than just happiness for me. It's just we've all been tortured too much against the Storm over the past 10 years. Titans is basically a home game for us. You would know that. I hope that we can beat the Titans. They've obviously got one over us fairly recently. Then we host the Broncos, which is already sold out. Massive game there. Really hope that we can get some revenge. One for the preliminary final last year, but also that game in Napier, which was, we should have done better. And then I hope that we can beat the Bulldogs as well. So, I mean, they're largely winnable games, with obviously Melbourne and Brisbane being the real contenders that will come up against during that 5 weeks.
Yeah, and Jacko's just pointed out here that we need 7 wins to sneak into the 8. So I need at least 3 of their next 5 games there. So I agree because like look at the results on the weekend. They definitely didn't help us on the ladder. So we're going to have to keep winning. We can't just rely on results to go away because as you can see on the weekend, there's quite a few that didn't go away. So you look at these games. You've got Cowboys there this weekend. That's going to be a real tough, tricky game, especially up in Townsville. Our record's not the greatest up there. And against the Storm as well, who we haven't beaten in ages, in a long, long time. I think 2014 was the last time we beat them in Melbourne. So in general speaking, it's also been a while since we beat them in New Zealand as well, at home. We don't often play them at home either. And that Titans game is the game I'll be attending. I'll definitely be there, of course, as I usually am every year, which I'm keen for, that one. And there'll be a vlog for that game. And then, the Broncos as well, tricky game as well. But I think, I don't know, the Broncos will probably have their origin players out for this game as well, I'm presuming. Or they'll have them, I don't know, some of them might back up. Some of them might back up for this game because this game's on the Saturday.
North Queensland's a really tricky one because I could be wrong here, guys. If you're listening and do get this wrong, correct me. I don't think there's a direct flight that they take from Auckland to Townsville, which means that they need to go via Brisbane, stay in transit for a couple of hours at least, and then up to North Queensland, and then sort of like we lose more than what we would usually lose in terms of travel time. It's fine for the Gold Coast, you fly into Brisbane or maybe even Coolangatta or somewhere like that. I don't know what the logistics around that flight are. And obviously the Bulldogs is that 5th game and there's obviously direct flights to Sydney. But that Townsville one is always the most awkward one to travel to for the boys every year. Well, certainly since Manly stopped transferring the game against us to Perth, which I always thought was a dog move because we're finishing after midnight New Zealand time. That Cowboys trip is the most awkward one of the year for us.
Yeah, and I just got the comments here. So feel free to put your questions into the chat, guys. So if you've got any questions or comments, I'll read them out as we go through the show. So Richard's just saying here, True Warriors fine. The boys are looking to get all 5 this month. Being that we played 2 Queensland-based teams in Melbourne through the Origin period, absolutely. I think the
good point.
Broncos.
I forgot about the Origin period.
Yeah, Origin period, and the Broncos and the Titans. The Titans will be actually the Titans don't have hardly any Origin players. They've only got one, I think. Fortuaka is only one, so it's not really. No David Fafita. David Fafita will definitely be playing for them against the Warriors. So. Just remember that David Fafita won't be there unless he gets a call up for that second game. But
Des is a savvy operator, isn't he? Like the Titans are really sort of. I had them well and truly in my top 8 this year. I thought Des Hasler does not miss the top 8. Or very rarely misses the top 8. I rate him very highly as a club. He's taken I think he took the Dogs to the grand final twice, Manly 3 or 4 times. The guy is a great coach, and I'm always wary against coming up against the Des Hasler coach team. And they got one over us a few weeks ago, and this is no given, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, no games are given. No games are given in this competition. We know that for the fact that, like a couple of weeks ago, we were Warriors fans, including myself, were talking about wins over the loss of the Dragons and the Knights away. The Titans at home, and how did that go for us? It didn't go for us very well. So, no games are easy, and you can't take any team lightly in this competition. So, despite where they are sitting on the ladder, So, Jacko's saying here, Cows will likely play their Origin players, Jazz has just said here, dangerous game for us. Many will expect us to win with our returning troops. The Cowboys losing the state of Origin stars. We struggle a lot and expected wins time to actually do as expected. And Jacko's just commented on that one, replied to that that they'll probably be playing their Origin players for that game there. And Jacko's also saying here, the trip to Cow's country is always a long trip. It's definitely is for sure. But so another thing I just want to cover up on. So we looked at the fixtures coming up. Is the amount of wins that you'd expect us to get and how many you would like to see us win. But there's another thing I'd like to touch up on is on the team list for this game this coming week, which will be announced on Tuesday, tomorrow for Team List Tuesday. And it's a question I want to ask you, Tohu Harris. Do we play him on limited minutes or do we give him less time and have him fresh for the back end of the year? What do you reckon here on this one? Because Dylan Walker, I think Dylan Walker's been playing great in that lock position over the last 4 weeks. There's quite a bit of debate around the Warriors world at the moment. Whether Tohu Harris should be straight back in there, or do you give him limited minutes, or what do you do? Keith, what do you reckon on this one? Do you just give him the long 80 minutes, or do you give him a limited role?
It depends if you've got him in the front row rotation or not. There's a few factors. I mean, ultimately, you want your captain on the field for as long as you possibly can have without it sort of being to the detriment of his performance when he's on there. I would like to see him playing around 60 minutes, and Walker can offer what Tohu can in attack, probably, or they're fairly comparable, but it's the mountain of work and the reliability in Tohu's defense that we miss the most, more than his cog in the wheel attack. I think if Kurt Capewell was fit and playing, I think he can play almost a similar role as Tohu does for us in defense. Just sort of very rarely misses a tackle, gets through a huge amount of work. But without Capewell out there in defense, that's what worries me the most. Because as I said, Walker can, he can play 5'8", so his ball playing skills are on par with Tohu, at least. But yeah, it's the defensive side of things that I worry about. If he's in the front rotation, then obviously he needs to have a rest. But ideally, when Kurt Capewell comes back, we can give him maybe half an hour on the bench per game and have him play 50 minutes or something like that. But I mean, Tohu, you can only imagine what he'd be saying to Webby. I don't think he minds staying out there, to be honest with you. And that's your captain speaking. So there's so many factors. You got your sort of like when does a captain's challenge? He knows how to talk to referees. Communication's good. His defense is best in the team, in my opinion. He can play a few positions, really. He's a leader. He's our leader. It's just you want him out there for as much as you can. But if it's starting to impact the longevity of his game throughout the season, then, reduce those minutes a bit. But I just wish we had Kurt Capewell out there to plug that defensive hole when he's not there.
Yeah, well, look, the only reason why I asked that question is because, there's a bit of a discussion going around at the moment. Like, because you look at Tohu Harris now, he's only, obviously he's not getting younger, and he has his knocks as well. Obviously,
but he's not that old.
Yeah.
How old is he? 32?
Yeah.
Like, he just looks old because he's always bandaged up and, he puts in such effort that he looks absolutely gassed when the camera comes on him. But, yeah, I've just looked it up now. That makes me feel old. 1992. He's 32 years old. Like, that, it's not that old. People think because he's been around for so long through the Melbourne Storm system that he's, pushing 40. Because, as I said, when the camera pans to him, he's put in such a lion-hearted effort. He's just absolutely gassed, and then he looks like it as well. But 32, I mean, he can play another few years, really, if he wanted to.
Yeah. Just a comment here, actually, from Nico.07. Dylan Walker's a much bigger threat in attack than Tohu with his speed and ball playing, and that's probably the thing I'd like to I actually agree with you on that one because look, it's great. Tohu's a great leader. Obviously, he's a great leader. He's a good player. He's been around for quite some time, and he's an important player to the squad. But I want to think of the long term. And Dylan Walker has been doing a good job. So I actually agree with you on that comment. And Jacko's just saying here that Tohu's a great player for me, but he's showing signs of his time coming to an end. Yeah, I absolutely agree. He's looking physically busted and mentally tired all season, but hopefully he proves me wrong. So, and Jose has just said here, yeah, Tohu will be named as starter. See who we have on the bench. So yeah, he thinks that Tohu will be starting there. But look, obviously I can't see Andrew Webster, limiting his minutes. But as a fan, it's my opinion. I'd love to see us, maybe limit his minutes a bit more, and then at the back end of the season, then give him the longer minutes again, just to have him refreshed for the back end of the year. But Jazz is saying here, seeing as Tohu was contemplating giving the game away a couple of years ago, I think getting him through this season plus one more is plenty, in my opinion. Yes, so yeah, it's also thinking about next year as well, and the end of this season as well. If we are to make the finals, if we have him fully fit, fresh for the finals as well, if we can get to that stage. Yeah. So, is there anything you'd like to add on to this one, Keith, on this general topic? Is there anything you'd like to add on more to this?
Just lastly, I know your question was, do we reduce the minutes to have him fresher cumulatively by the back end of the year? But I don't think so now that I've thought about it, but I wouldn't mind seeing him rested for a game, maybe between the next bye and the bye after. So a good couple of weeks could have him fresh anyway, but maybe when sort of Kurt Capewell comes back, or we got a very strong team out there and we can afford to rest Tohu. Yeah. Oh, sorry. The other thing that I was thinking about is the real dilemma for me is do you play Chanel Harris-Tavita or Jazz? So you can't have Walker, Harris-Tavita, and Tavanga all on the bench because it's just too small of a bench. So it seems like you'd have to choose between CHT and Jazz. And right now, I'd prefer to see CHT. He can play lock. He can play all the back positions. He can play hooker. He can play front row if you really needed him to. Like, I think the energy that he brought to the game last weekend, it'll be a waste to see him drop back to reserve grade now. So as much as I love Jazz, one of my all-time favorites, I think that having CHT and Walker on the bench, sort of even that's a bit of a small bench. So you can't add a third relatively small player in there as well.
Yeah, and just actually reacting to this comment that Jose has made here, is it disrespectful naming your captain on the bench? I'm not exactly saying that Tohu Harris should be on the bench. Look, I mean, he probably should be still starting, but what I'm saying is just not give him as many minutes. I wouldn't say drop Tohu Harris from the team altogether. I don't think that's the way to go about it, but like the way I'd probably do it is give him a couple minutes in the first half and then take him off, and then get him a couple minutes in the second half. So he's just fully fresh. That's the way I'd probably do it on that one. But
I don't think it's necessarily disrespectful, although I can see why some people would think that, but it's just not practical for me. I mean, you need him there at the start of the game. That's when talk between the captain and the referee, you got the coin toss, which is probably irrelevant, actually. You can sort of go back to the bench after that. But you want him setting the standard early on because he is a tide riser in terms of his standards.
Yeah. Yeah, and Jacko's just going here, comment. Jacko's saying sometimes great players' times are up. I can remember young Bennett cutting the great Wayne Bennett near the end of his playing days. Yeah, that's a fair comment. Yeah, for sure. There's always.
But Tohu's standards haven't slipped. He's still playing at a very high standard. If he started to be conceding tries here and there, and not the Tohu that we know and love, then absolutely. But we're just sort of looking at him and we're going on the optics alone here. But if you measure the actual output and observe his game, he just keeps going and going and going like the Energizer Bunny. So maybe when his standards start to slip, of course, the discussion needs to be had. But in my mind, they haven't slipped.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying for people wondering, I'm not saying that we should drop him altogether out of the side. I don't think that should be the case. I just feel like, the way I look at it is, the way we played this season and the amount of game time he's getting, he's definitely putting his body on the line. He's still playing good footy. Don't get me wrong. He's definitely playing well to be in the. There's no doubt you'd never drop so Harris out of the team altogether. So I'm just thinking on the long term throughout the season, do you give him that time and limit his minutes, and then at the back end, of the season, you definitely play him longer minutes, keep him fully fresh and ready. So that's the way I'm going about it. And Jose is saying, Green manages minutes. Yeah, absolutely. And just a comment here. Hello to Zovon. Apologies if I pronounced that wrong. He's saying, I think Pompey is the worst centre in the Warriors system. His defence is worse in the comp, and bringing younger players like Whitelock, Graham Tafua should stay. Thoughts? What do you thoughts see on that comment? Because I think it's a bit harsh to say he's one of the worst centres in the Warriors system. I think, look, I've been pretty critical of Adam Pompey over the years. But I don't think he's a horrible player. I think it's a bit harsh, their comment there, but I actually disagree on that one. But Moala Graham Tafua is a good young player. He definitely is a good young player coming through the system. So what are your thoughts here on that comment, Keith? I think Adam Pompey's shown improvement last year. I think he's shown improvement last year, and when he's coming to this team this year, actually, I think he's played some good games. So what are your thoughts here on that comment?
Yeah, similar to you. I think it is a little bit harsh, but it's got its historical roots in terms of if you go back 4 or so years, the sort of Nathan Brown era and those years, and I probably would have almost agreed, really, despite, it is a bit harsh, but I probably would have agreed in reality. Whereas under Webster, you can see how much effort Adams put into his defensive game in particular. He's just sort of like, maybe he's a victim. He looks like he's not trying that hard, a bit like Kristen Inu used to look, very nonchalant. I think last year he played every single game and his defense was pretty sound in my mind. Yep. He's a good, handy goal kicker. He works pretty hard at that as well. So these days I disagree, but in the past I probably would have agreed with you. But he's come a long way.
Yep. And Jacko's just saying here, in regards to Tohu, I'm not stating that cut Tohu now, but the time may be maybe not far away. I was surprised we signed him for another season. And Richard's saying I agree on the Tohu talk. And Jacko's just saying Pompey has improved our side. He is the number 3 centre behind Rocco and Ali Leotawa as well. So yeah, that's
not RTS.
Actually, that's a question I want to ask you, regards to RTS this season, because if you look at it, for me, I look at it as the fact that when RTS has been in the centres, I don't think he's been playing great there, but that's not his natural position. And during the off-season, obviously there was talks that, him going there, may make the Warriors a lot better, but, you look at our attack this year, when he's been in that centre position, it's probably not suited him. For me, what do you reckon? Do you agree on that, or do you disagree? Because
I agree, but your tone kind of indicates like we should move him, and that's I think I diverge from what I assume is your opinion. He certainly hasn't found his feet in the centre position, and we expect him to be like a Joey Manu type centre. In the context of having like this sort of license to roam around the field and find opportunities like Joey Manu's doing for the Roosters. But it's just too early on to expect him to be able to do that. I think that we should, I wouldn't be angry to see him swap back to fullback with Chance coming into the centre position, but I think that's a move that needs to happen in the off-season. And I think by the end of the year, we'll see a lot better output from RTS once he comes back. But it certainly hasn't gone as well as what I would hope it to go in terms of his move to the centre position, but it's still going to take more time. It's one of the most nuanced positions on the field because it's not attack that you have to focus your game on when you're a centre. I played centre for about 5 years when I was younger. It's almost all of your preparation needs to go on defense. And he's been in rugby union for a while. Unless you're watching, the Irish national team, decoy plays aren't as common in rugby union as they are in rugby league. So it's going to take him a while to learn set plays, and the decoy play often comes around about that, between that centre and the back row position. And if the back row is not really on it and misses a tackle, then it looks like the centre or the wing is the reason for that try being let in. So it's the defence that that is going to take a while to learn. And I think that's where he's rightly been focusing his energy, his mental energy, and it's probably come at the expense of being able to play the expensive game that we'd look for him to play, because we know what he's capable of.
Yeah, and Jacko's is saying here that Rat's saying that RT is saying that midfield play he failed, and it looks like looks the same, even though his stats are okay. He would have been far more effective on the wing. I agree with you, Jacko. And look, when the experiment of having him in the centres during the off season, there's a lot of talk around it. And there was a lot of people saying, should RTS go back to fullback? Should Chance Nickel-Klugstar go to centre? There's always this debate that keeps raging on for quite a while. And, I had a long think about it, and, was watching RTS closely. And he, I think obviously he's not getting enough ball. And it definitely doesn't help in a way.
Yeah, I agree.
Which I saw in the comments that he's not getting enough space and enough ball, which is a fair comment to make as well. Yeah. So that doesn't help at all. But look, for me, at the moment, if you're going to pick the team and where RTS is going to fit, that's the big question, because I think if you're going to have him in the team, he'll definitely be back in the side once he's fully fit. I wouldn't have him in the centres at all. I think that the experiment needs to, officially end. I don't think he should be in the centres anymore. I think he should be somewhere on the wing. And that's where I'd probably have him, on the wing. Yeah, I just wouldn't have him in the centres. I think that experiment should be done and dusted, in my opinion. But yeah, just what I see, what I think, I reckon he's just not suited to that position in playing there. And RTS, Jackie's saying RTS is 30 years old. We have good centres. Why persist teaching a new position? Yeah, absolutely. And it was great on the wing at Shookies years ago, swapping with Minicello at fullback during games. Yeah, he was. Yeah, definitely. And he had a great season there in that position. So that's why I think he'd be better suited to be there on that wing. But the thing is, who would you leave out? You've got Dylan Watini-Zelezniak on that wing there, and then you've got the other winger, Montoya. What do you do with Montoya? That's the biggest question.
Yeah.
That's the dilemma.
I'm sorry to say, that's an easy decision for me. Montoya, you drop in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I know.
Out of those two.
Yeah, but they wouldn't drop Montoya. Like every time, we doubt Montoya. They've always Webby's always been true. He's always stuck with Montoya throughout the year for his team. So, and Jacko's just saying here, it's true. Jose Montoya was obvious choice, but he played so well the last couple of games. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Montoya hasn't been playing great this year, and I've had my doubts over Montoya. And I think I would have dropped him. I would be dropping him, but his form has been a little bit better over the last couple of weeks. He's actually shown a bit of improvement there, but
except for that try that in the last couple of minutes for the Dolphin, where he had the turning berth of the Titanic. I haven't seen that since Manu played on the wing.
Yeah.
That have I, of course.
Yeah. Jose is just saying here, maybe Rogers centre, but our halves combos haven't given enough ball. I honestly don't know. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, cool. I would keep him in the centre, so I'd like that comment.
That's probably a fair point, because we've definitely had a change of. We haven't had a consistent halves pairing on the field. We've had a swap and change every week. It's where one player's injured and we swap it around. Tamari Martin goes halfback. And I think Tamari Martin as well. Look, I just want to bring this up, actually. The next question for you. This one here, in regards to the Warriors halves. Do the Warriors stick with Sean Johnson, Tamari Martin combo moving forward? Or do you go with Chanel Harris-Tavita in there? What do you do here? What are your thoughts on this? Because Harris-Tavita I thought played well in the previous game as well. And then you've got Sean coming back from injury this week, which he should be named on Tuesday during his fit. Do you stick with Sean Johnson, Tamari Martin? Because Tamari Martin has had one of those, quietest seasons so far, and he's come on strong in the last two games against Penrith, but he's been playing halfback. He's been playing a different position. So, what are your thoughts there on this one, Keith? What do you reckon?
Well, the question hits at the luxury of what it is to have both those players, even after Metcalf's season-ending injury. I mean, sort of, who would I keep who would I have for the next couple of games at least? You have to keep Tamari there. He's been, a superstar against the Dolphins, and he's started to discover his running game again, which is really, really good. I think that CHT is probably maybe a victim of his utility value as well, a bit like Craig Wing was back in the day. In short, Tamari, but in saying that, I would be equally happy to see CHT there as a left footer to complement SJ's right foot. We know what he's capable of. I'd still go Tamari, but, they're both sort of high-quality players that can do the job, in my opinion.
Yeah, and just going on these comments here regards the RTS, going back on that one, but I'll just read the comment anyway. But look, move RTS if you like, but not to fullback, in my opinion. The bro chances come from Raiders to play there, especially when he deserves it. Deserves the number 1 jersey. RTS left, so as good as he was, you can't just waltz in there. That's a fair comment. And Tahi Bro says towards Sean Johnson's attacking side. Push Chance Bill Cook start out to somewhere he doesn't want to be. And Jose regards to the Tamari Martin at 7 and Sean Johnson at 6. Did he play 6 at the Sharks with any success? So what do you reckon here on this one? What do you reckon?
He showed glimpses at the Sharks. He did play 6 at the Sharks. I kept waiting for him to burst on the scene because you could see such talent there, but it just, for whatever reason, it just wasn't happening at the Sharks. I'm looking for a big game from SJ against the Cowboys this weekend, assuming he's named.
Yep, and Richard's just saying here, what a good problem we have picking this team. Awesomeness. Yeah, absolutely. Even for me, like just sitting here and picking the team, even predicting my own team, Warriors lineup, it's quite difficult. And Webby will be having those coaching selection headaches as well. So, Greg's saying how for the Warriors win this weekend. Yeah, absolutely. And Jack is saying how to put Chanel at 6, mainly because of his left foot kicking and really tough D. But I think Webster will go with Tamari Martin there. And Tamari Martin's a halfback, not so good at 5'8". So, what do you reckon? Tamari Martin, is he better at halfback or is he better at 5'8"? Because we saw that the last 2 weeks. The last 2 games. Glimpses that he was quite good where he was. Is he play him? Do you play him at 6 or 7?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you don't move SJ. You have to play him at 6.
Yes.
But in saying that, if you named, Luke Hansen at 7 in the game against the Dolphins and Tamara still played 6, I feel that it was less about the 6 on the back or the 7 on the back than what was being the senior half. And with SJ there, Tamara can't do that. So he does need to somehow do more, or we do as a collective team to unlock that left side, which everybody knows. I've been ranting and raving for the best part of 6 months about that at least. But I mean, I think it was whoever commented, what a luxury to have. I'd like to see a game where CHT partnered SJ with the left boot there and see what difference it makes to that left-hand side and unlocking RTS down that wing. But, I mean, we're talking about equal standards of players here in my mind. It's just whatever works best for the team, and it's very hard to judge until you see it in action. But they're both sort of high-quality halves, in my opinion. So there's not really a lot of loss by whichever one you go with. I just think that because Tamari doesn't have the utility value that CHT has, it probably makes sense as a collective to have CHT on the bench and then playing lock or even the second row or any position that's needed throughout the course of the game, whereas you can't see Tamari being able to do that at at least not at the high quality that Chanel can do it. So the only way you can fit both of them in the 17 is to have Chanel on the bench and playing that utility role, even though I've already got Walker there.
Yeah. Yeah, and what do you reckon about the Warriors bench so far? How do you reckon we've been going in terms of our bench this season? Do you look at the last couple of weeks? How do you look at the bench, and do you think there'll be do you stick with what's stuck solid over the last couple of weeks, or do you change it up here with the bench?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I like the fact that we've blooded a few young players. I liked Zion debuted. Obviously got Jacob Laban debuting as well. And I think that we needed to blood some new players this year. So that's really, really good to see. Look, ideally, Zion is probably the one that I'd like to see play more regularly because he's aggressive, he's big. I might sort of shout out to a player that I've been really critical of in the past, Bunty Afoa. He's actually been pretty good the past month or so. He's surprised me quite a lot. I'm still looking for Tom Ale to do more. You remember the trial at the start of 2023? I think it was against the Tigers. He absolutely killed it. He's capable of doing it, but he's spotted in the 17. He's in and out. He's a real risk of having one of those youngsters take his spot permanently. So I'd like to see Ali step up as well. But it's good that we have such competition for those spots now as well.
Yeah, and I'm just actually reading some of these comments here, and Jose has a good point. These two games were the best games he played for us, in my opinion. I think it was regards to Bunty. I think he was talking about Bunty there.
Last game, he killed it.
Yeah. I've been waiting for him to improve, and he's got there. So I'm pretty sure
it's his defense.
Yeah.
You watch him make tackle after tackle. He might not stay on the field for long, and don't judge him on the meters with the ball. Judge him on the dirty work that he gets through in defense. Right next to the try line, he's the first one with 1 foot behind the try line, blocking that dummy half play. It's the little things that Bunty is doing that is really impressing me lately.
Yeah, and Jose is just saying, the bench is going to be hardest part to figure out, I reckon, if you're Webby. Yeah, for sure. It definitely is. Even I'm trying to wonder, what bench we're going to go with this week against the Cowboys, and what bench we're going to go with for the rest of the season and every week. And Jackie's just saying there's a difference between a 6 and 7. So Dylan Brown at the Eels is a great 6, but was pushed to 7 recently, and he was very average. So interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting point.
There's definitely a difference, but it does depend on the player as well. But I agree. It's factually there is a difference between the 6 and the 7.
Yeah, and Jose is just saying here, Bunty's had his best game of the season was against the Dolphins, definitely for sure. And I've been pretty critical of Bunty last season, and I'm not gonna lie, I put my hand up to say that. But he's definitely, when he's played for us this year, I think he's had some very good games. He's putting in big performances. I think for me, he's definitely a good defender, no doubt about it. There's a lot of talk around his defense last year because he was well up there in terms of defensive stats, which I was kept, as he was mentioned quite a bit by a lot of fans around how his defense was so good. But Bunty's definitely, I think, since coming back into the side, he's been pretty rock solid there. And Jacko's saying here, Bunty's underrated. He does his job. That's what we've seen from him. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what Webby loves in players. He just wants those players to do their job. So he's absolutely right there on that one. But
many people initially couldn't see why Rocco was being picked every week, and then because the camera doesn't always pan to the kick chase, as probably the prime example. There's a lot of other things. He very, very rarely misses a tackle, and when he does, it's because he's charging so hard to be the first person down there. So you have to go to the game and observe as many players in the team as you possibly can to realize the value that they add, because watching it on TV, you only see what angles the production team want you to see.
Yeah, exactly right. And just actually want to look at this now. So the Warriors' best team at full strength, who would you select in your 1 to 17? So off the back, who do you reckon you'd go with? So I'll go with my team first. So I'll select my team. So starting off at fullback, this is at full strength. So with the players we have available. So I've gone fullback, Chance Nicol-Klukstad there. Dylan Watini-Zelezniak on the wing. I've gone with Berry and Pompey in the centres, and Marcelo Montoya on the wing. And then Luke Metcalf, obviously, I've gone with him. 5'8", and Sean Johnson halfback. Adam Fanua-Blake prop, Wade Egan, Murata Niokore. I've got actually starting Murata Niokore and prop there as well. Yeah, props. So Jackson Ford would be my second row with Mitchell Barnett and Locke would be Tohu Harris at full fitness. My bench would be Dylan Walker, Bunty for Tomala and Jazz Tavanga. That would be my 17. So what do you reckon there, Keith? What do you reckon if you were to pick your 17 at full strength with the players available? Who would you go with?
I think our first 9 were identical. I mean, this is obviously a question without notice, but I'd keep Chance at fullback as well. Just, if not solely due to the fact that that's where he's trained all season. DWZ on the wing, Rocco Berry and RTS being the centres. Montoya, I wouldn't mind seeing Ed Cossey come in. I'll go Montoya, but it's not a given for me. The number 5 of the first 9 that you mentioned, that's the jersey that's up for grab the most. Although I guess number 6 would be as well. But I'd still stick with Luke Metcalf. I think he's a future superstar still. If we can sort of get over the injury runs. SJ at 7, AFB. I've got Mitch Barnett at prop. He's all heart. I love what he brings to the team. I love the mongrel and the passion that he brings. So I've got him at number 10. Obviously, Wade at number 9. I think we need to have Kurt Capewell in the back row. I think you either had him on the bench or missed out. So I've got Kurt. I'm going to stick with Jackson Ford as the other back rower because Niakore's impact off the bench. Whereas, if you listen to Webby talk about Jackson Ford, he's a person that needs to basically play the full 80. And that's when you get the best out of him. More, it's like a cross-country runner. When you can't judge him as a 400-meter runner. He's a cross-country athlete in that regard, if you understand the metaphor. Tohu's obviously my lock. Dylan Walker at 14. I'm going to throw Chanel Harris-Tavita in at 15. Murata Niokore. I think someone said that he's about the same height and size as James Fisher-Harris. I don't know if that's true, but if it is true, then he can really add some impact off the bench, which he has been doing. So Murata's my number 16. The 17th one is really hard because I'd like to see some size because I've already got Walker and CHT on my bench. So what does it come down? Who does it come down to? Bunty, Ale, Zion. Am I missing anyone? Jacob Blaban for me is not quite first 17 if all back rowers are healthy. This year, look, I guess I'd throw Bunty in there. But I think next year I probably would go with Zion if his upwards trajectory continues the way it is. So look, I'll play it safe and go Bunty at number 17.
Yep, and Jose just asked a question here. Bunty or Ale? Who would you go with?
Right now, Bunty.
Yep.
Ale hasn't really progressed at the rate that I thought he would. I mentioned earlier, I think it was a trial last year against the Tigers where he absolutely killed. He burst on the scene. He was roaming around. It was all energy. I just think that he's failed to make the impact that he was when he sort of first started to play regular minutes. And look, it's harsh to say he's regressed, but he hasn't progressed at the rate that I thought he would. So Bunty's in favour with me at the moment after the last couple of weeks, but perhaps as a presenteeism bias to my comment.
Yep. And I think that's pretty much the question I wanted to ask in regards to the selection. So just want to look actually to this game this week. Cowboys Warriors coming up on Saturday evening. So this game for me is probably really it's a must-win game for the Warriors and the Cowboys as a whole. Cowboys themselves coming off that win down last week against the Roosters in Sydney, a huge surprising win, which I probably did not expect with the players they have out as well. So, Keith, going into this week's game, what are you expecting in regards to this Warriors team? What team list would you expect them to line up with, and the Cowboys? What do you see out of this game? Because this is a game where both teams desperately need those 2 points to climb themselves up inside that, close to that top 8. So, what do you reckon? Townsville on Saturday night, really tough game. What are your predictions as well? What do you reckon? How do you reckon it's going to go?
Well, it's obviously going to be a drastically different team to the team that took the field against the Dolphins. I'm just reading the Daily Telegraph early mail section at the moment, and they've written that Adam Fanua-Blake, Chance Cookstad, Rocco Berry, Torku Harris, Wade Egan, Sean Johnson, and Kurt Capewell are all expected to return from injury for the Warriors following their bye. Now, that is a large chunk of our salary cap all returning at the same time, which is quite incredible. What am I expecting? I don't know, because for those that were listening about half an hour ago, I touched on the fact that our game plan was drastically simplified for the last couple of weeks due to those players being out. And we won based on determination, grit, and just heart, really. Do we go back to the game plan that we were playing for the first 10 or 11 rounds and try and execute it better? Because in the long run, we're going to need that quality to, if we're going to make the finals and then take on the bigger teams. Or do we is the game plan somewhere in the middle between the elementary game plan that we played the Dolphins with and what we were trying to do for the first 10 weeks or so, and then hope to sort of eventually get to the execution levels for a more complex game over the next month or so? Or do we just, we know what to do. We did it last year. We haven't been doing it this year. We've had all those players on the field at the same time. Let's just stick with it in the hope that we can execute it a lot better. So that's what I'm looking for against the Cowboys. I have no idea what kind of game plan we're going to play. I'm very curious to see that.
Yeah, Ben, just quickly, I just want to pop into the super chat. Actually, pop into the chat because I've seen someone has sent in a super chat. Yeah, so thanks to York. He sent a $30.99 super chat on YouTube. So thanks to York for that. Appreciate that. He says, "Hey, Fanatics Warriors, good and love your content, love your channel." So I appreciate that, York. Good to see a bit of support as well from York, and thanks to him for the super chat as well. But
yeah, nice one.
Just here a comment here in regards to actually Jose. I just want to read this one. He's saying here, I wonder if it's too reluctantly to change up the whole game plan, or is it better to improve the game plan? Big question. Reactionary.
To change up the whole game plan. What was the last part? Can we go back to the comment?
I think
possible. So I wonder if it's too reactionary to change up the whole game plan, or is it better to improve the game plan? Big question. Yeah, that's a question I have as well, Hosea. I mean, I guess Webby's got an idea. I mean, it's not a binary choice. They're not mutually exclusive in that regard. So I guess the three options are keep it simple, go back to a complex game plan and hope that we execute it better, or meet somewhere in the middle and work towards being able to execute the complex game plan like we were able to last year. So I don't know which of those three options we're going to see. It's a great comment, though.
Yeah, it'll just be interesting to see what sort of game plan Webby goes with, because if he gets, we get the likes of Wade Egan, which is a big in, and we're also probably going to get, obviously, we're going to get Sean back there. Chance, I think Chance we'll see him back at fullback there. So that's going to be like Kurt Capewell is another one. I don't know. What are your general thoughts on Kurt Capewell? Because at the start of the season, I wasn't a big fan of the signing. A lot of people loved the signing. A lot of people thought, the fact that he's bringing a lot of experience, but he has also had his injuries as well this season. What are your thoughts on Kurt Capewell? Do you think he's going to come straight back in this week?
Yeah, I love him. I think that I said that when it was rumored that we were going to sign him, unless we got him for this year, I would have hated to see the club offer him a 3-year deal. But he has a similar effect on a team, and maybe this is sort of a little too much praise, but kind of like James Maloney was in terms of wherever he goes, that team seems to win grand finals or at least make grand finals. So he was in that 2016 Cronulla Sharks premiership winning team. I think he won a premiership with the Panthers. At least he was in the grand final team. I think he would have won with the Panthers. He was in Brisbane's team in last year's grand final as well. Yeah. That's 3 grand finals at 3 different clubs. Wherever he goes, he adds something that's not necessarily tangible, but there's something there where he just brings a quality to a team and the players around him. So we haven't seen him at his best yet, but he is a magnificent signing, and he is potentially the biggest key to resting Tohu in the way that yourself and some of your fans mentioned earlier. He's just so reliable.
Yep, and Jeff is just saying here that if we played well and if we defended well and played last couple weeks style, we can take Cows down, as the defence has been average all year. Yeah, I think if you look at their defence, it's definitely an area that the Warriors will be able to should be able to expose. I think definitely on the tape I'll be looking at it very closely. I think the Cowboys last week against the Roosters, I think they defended all right, a lot better than they probably would have defended throughout this whole season. I don't know what your take there is on that one, Keith. Do you agree with the fact that their defence was a little bit better, or was it the fact that the Roosters were quite off, or what do you reckon on that game?
There's parallels with the Warriors if you zoom out a bit. I mean, not just the fact that Toddy Payton's their coach, but the fact that they had a tremendous year a couple of years ago. I think they finished second from memory. I could be wrong. I think it was second though. And then they just really fell off the wagon last year. Hopefully we don't fall off the wagon completely this year. And remember the Cowboys last year, who failed to make the 8. And now we're seeing, I don't know where they are as a team right now, but all of a sudden Todd Payton's under a lot of pressure which I didn't think I'd see him under. The quality is definitely there. People are talking about Taumalolo chewing up $1 million in their salary cap, but coming off the bench, there are some issues there. But there's foundations of a really high quality football team there as well. They're a really hard team to place, and I really hope they rest their origin players like Val Holmes and Reece Robson and co. Because that'll make me feel a lot more comfortable. But I mean, the average punter that's not a Warriors fan or a Cowboys fan might see both our teams as similar quality right now, whereas we're all, I assume anyone watching, and myself included, we all think that the Warriors have a deeper depth and a higher capacity than the Cowboys in terms of the end of finish at the end of the season. So a very, very hard team to pick. They've got some quality players there. I just hope we can take them on the weekend. So, but yeah, I don't know which way this one's going to go.
Yeah, and just the comment here from Tahi, bro. He's once the team is at full strength, the system should tune up a lot better. But I think definitely for sure, like we should be a lot better once we get our players, our fully fit side on the field. But obviously, we looked at the start of the season, we had a fully fit side, and we were struggling in terms of our attack, and it was really the word I put is predictable with our attack, and our defence wasn't right where it was on last season. So I think it'd be good to have a few players back, but obviously, we're still quite a fair bit away from where we want to be at the moment. But I'm sure we can get there. We can get back to our best. And Jack is saying here, it's too late in the season to change the game plan too much. Our systems are fine. We just got to play with more freedom like the last few games. Yeah, definitely. And Jack is saying here, well said, Jacko. And Jack has also pointed out with Capewell, we've signed Capewell for free season yet to show it was the right decision. So his best years may be behind him. And also just another one, don't take much from the Cows last game. Both sides had a top players out due to Origin as well. So, and also Cowboys. Given the Cowboys roster, they are a top 6 material. So, yeah, look, I mean, at the start of this year, I thought the Cowboys would probably be doing a lot better. I think they started the season off pretty well. They won their first couple of games, but what do you reckon? Do you think the Cowboys, if you look at their roster, should they be in the top 8 right now? Should they be at least challenging for the finals, or how do you see it?
I think they're top 8. They're a top 8 roster. That's fair to say. If they missed the finals, would it be shocking? Oh, I don't think so. I think their ceiling is probably somewhere like 6th, and their floor is maybe somewhere like 14th. I don't think they're premiership contenders. But in saying that, they can, pull off a win against any team on their day. So, yeah, it's not really surprising for me. They're a hard team to place, though.
Yep. And Jose is saying here, do we take much from that game with so many players were out from both teams? Yeah. Just as we covered on, like, you don't really take a lot out. It's a good win for the Cowboys. Definitely is, because it's going down to Sydney, playing the Roosters. It's not generally a place where the Cowboys tend to do well in Sydney against the Roosters. So it was a huge win for them. But obviously with players out, although the Cowboys had a few outs as well. They had quite a few out players as well. So, but yeah. So what do you reckon, Keith? This game? Prediction wise, how do you see it going? Like, obviously the team list, we don't have the team list in front of us, but once it comes out tomorrow. But although I'm going to be doing a preview with Cowboys content creator Nick from Australia tomorrow night, so tune in for that one. We'll do a full preview and go through the teams and give our thoughts. But Keith, what do you reckon? Do you reckon this game this week, can the Warriors win their 3rd game in a row, or do you think the Cowboys at home? What do you think?
I'm going to go the Warriors. I mean, I just think our ceiling. I mean, it's going to sound crazy given where we're out on the ladder. Our ceiling is still a premiership. Like the quality of the best 17 is phenomenal. We can't keep referring back to last year, but we know what they're capable of doing. And since then, we've lost only really Josh Curran and Bailey Sirenen, but we've added Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Kurt Capewell, as I said, 3 grand finals, 3 different clubs, and Chanel Harris-Tavita is back. The ceiling is a premiership for the Warriors. And, with the team that I think we will field, we really should be beating the Cowboys, even though it's in North Queensland. Will we beat them? I really think, I hope so. Wouldn't be surprised if we lost at the same time, because we are in this year. We can't just keep referencing last year, but I'm going to go, with the Warriors win. I'll be an optimist.
Yep. And just now on the next game actually that's coming up, believe it or not, is a big game. State of Origin coming up on Wednesday night. Keith, who are you barracking for? Are you barracking for the New South Wales Blues or the Queensland Maroons here? Or I'm
in Sydney, so yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you're New South Wales.
Definitely going for the Blues. The isolating the game that is State of Origin is the best. It's the fiercest game that we have as a sport, and you got to love it. It is incredible. The event, the atmosphere. Isolating just that is just a phenomenal game to watch. Zooming out a bit. I follow the Warriors because I'm a massive expansionist, or one of the reasons is that I'm a massive expansionist. The State of Origin as a concept, whilst I understand it's the financial piggy bank that keeps on giving and giving and giving to the NRL, it's equivalent to having 3 other grand finals, basically, in terms of TV ratings, monetary capitalization, all that kind of stuff. But it could be argued that, it has a ceiling that it's probably pushing right now, because it's no longer the best of the best when you think about it. There are a number of Kiwi players who surely would have been chosen for Origin over the past few years. Joey Manu being one of them. Roger would have been chosen at some time. James Fisher-Harris, Adam Fanua-Blake, obviously Tonga, but Jason Taumalolo as well. So it's no longer the best of the best. And what do we do with players such as the Melbourne Storm fullback, not Ryan Pappenhausen, the Victorian product. So when more Victorian products finally start to come through the Melbourne Storm system, they can't play Origin either because, I mean, can they play for New South Wales or Queensland? I'm not too sure. It's a really awkward conversation to have because State of Origin is confined to players that lived in the state of New South Wales or Queensland prior to the age of 13. And if we start to look at expanding to Papua New Guinea as a team and add a second New Zealand team in there and add a Perth team in there, if they start to genuinely produce juniors, probably by having the same system as the Warriors do with the SG ball, Jersey flag, etc., all of a sudden you're going to get more and more players who are ineligible to play State of Origin, which would deteriorate the appeal of having New South Wales versus Queensland. But that's obviously getting a little too deep and granular. That's sort of talking about the concept in itself. But coming back just to Wednesday night, of course, go the Blues. It's going to be an amazing game. I think Queensland's are genuinely favourites this time around. I assume you're going for Queensland.
Of course, yeah.
Go the Blues.
Yeah, so just want a quick look into the teams. Obviously, there's been some changes there, and I give it just a bit of a brief prediction there. And yeah, we'll just touch on one more topic before we end the show tonight. So just looking at the Queensland side, so obviously you got Reece Walsh here, fullback, Xavier Coates, Val Holmes, the centres of Hamaso, Tibo Fidel, Murray Talangi, 5'8" is Tom Dearden, who gets the nod over Cameron Munster. Gets a nod over Ezra Mann because Cameron Munster is injured. Then Cherry Evans, halfback and captain. Ruben Cotter, prop. Ben Hunt, hooker. Lindsay Collins, our prop. Jaden Stewart, second row with Jeremiah Nanai. Obviously, no David Fafita, which was a huge surprise. Not many people expected Billy to drop David Fafita on the side altogether. Patrick Carrigan locked in the bench of Harry Grant, Florida Wake, Jermaine Hopgood and Selwyn Cobbo's 17. And the New South Wales had a few changes there. Oh, the one noticeable change is fullback with no Dylan Edwards, which is a big out for the Blues. It's a shame because he was looking forward to making his debut, but unfortunately he is been ruled out. And Teddy comes in, the most established player in the Origin side for the years. He's back at fullback there. So Brian Tu'o on the wing, Stephen Crichton centres with Sua'ali'i, quite a few debuts for a few of these players. Zach Lomax included, and Sua'ali'i. Jerome Luai half, 5'8" with Nicholas Hines halfback, and Jake Trebojevic top, and captain Reece Robinson, hooker, and Payne Haas prop with Liam Martin second row with Angus Crichton, Cameron McInnes. Isaiah Yeo, Hamoli Olakuatu, Spencer Leonard, and Hudson Young there. So that's the bench. So Keith, what just quickly, what are your thoughts there on those sides there that and the out of Dylan Edwards? Obviously you got Teddy there who's was outlasted from the side, but he's now back in there. Well, what are your thoughts on those two teams that they've been named for Wednesday night?
Yeah, I think personally, I would have gone with Teddy anyway. So I don't think that we've suffered much with Edwards being injured. I mean, I feel for Edwards. It's really sort of like pretty. It sucks to hear that he was about to achieve his dream of playing for New South Wales and he's gotten injured. Obviously, the topic of what happens if Teddy absolutely brains it, on Wednesday night, do you retain him? Surely you would to keep the cohesion. So I don't think we've lost anything with Teddy coming in because I would have chosen him in the first place. I understand a lot of people have differing opinions on that. The only other one is number 9. I would have had Appy, Coruscant over Reece Robson, but hopefully Robson goes really, really well. And my final comment on this is that I think that Brad Fittler got out-coached last year by Billy Slater, who's extremely meticulous in his approach, but I can't see Michael Maguire getting out-coached in the same way that Brad Fittler got out-coached. We saw what Madge did coaching the Kiwis in the Pacific Championship. I think Kiwis won 30-0 or something like that. So the coaches are very in fact, you could argue Madge is probably credential-wise, obviously he's a better credentialed coach. But I always worried about Freddie Fittler coming up against, Billy Slater, knowing how meticulous he is. And I felt better when he came up against Kevin Walters as a coach. Yep.
So just to give my quick give my quick prediction, and we'll get your quick prediction as well, Keith. So I'm going to go. Obviously, I'm backing the Maroons here, being a obviously Queensland fan and living in Queensland. So I'm going to go with the Maroons here. I think it'll be a low-scoring game. I really do, because the first games are always quite low-scoring. And being in Sydney, I think the conditions playing it in a core stadium there will suit the Blues more than it will suit the Maroons, because the Maroons like a fast, dry track. So I think it might be probably one of those dewy nights. The field might be quite dewy. I don't know what the weather's doing over there at the moment, Keith. So let me know there.
It's been good, but I think it is raining on Wednesday, so it is a factor.
Yes, so I think it might probably favour the Blues more than it favours the Maroons, because the Maroons probably used to, that dry track. So I think it could be a bit of a advantage in a way, and obviously playing in front of the fans as well, New South Wales fans at home. It'll be all blue. Look, Jose is just saying here, do you think Teddy coming in as the second choice will have an impact on the New South Wales blokes? Do you think so? Because he hasn't really trained a lot in the Blues camp. Do you think it might affect them, the combination?
He'll have a point to prove. I think it's only. I don't see any downside to it. I think upside. He'll have a bee in the bonnet and show that the initial decision was wrong and he should have been picked himself. My prediction is because it's raining, low scoring game as well, something like 16-12. And I'm going to go with Queensland, unfortunately. Speak with my head, not my heart. And the reason being the game management of Daly Cherry Evans. Probably better than Nico Hines, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll go Queensland by 6 points at least. I'll put in a try score actually first for this one. First try score will go. I think the New South Wales Blues will score first in this game. And I'll actually go with. I'm going to say Brian Toto for me. And anytime try score will go Reece Walsh. I think Walshy and the Hammer. What about you, Keith? What do you reckon here? Who do you think may score the first try?
Yeah, I can see New South Wales scoring the first try. Big crowd in Sydney. Stephen Crichton is the player for me, though. He just has an uncanny knack of getting across the line. So we'll go with Critter.
Yeah, Ben, I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to this game definitely on Wednesday night, and should be good. This State of Origin series always exciting one every year, and the first game definitely January, is a good game to kickstart the season in Sydney. And I think for the Blues, it's probably important for them more so because they don't want to be going to Suncorp Stadium to potentially win a series in Brisbane. So I think it's more important for them to win the first game because the second game's in Melbourne. At the MCG, so they probably, for me, this is probably a must-win for them in terms of the series as a whole than it is for Queensland, because I think Queensland can win the second game in Melbourne, and the third game's at Suncorp, so it's more of an advantage to the Maroons in Game 3 if it goes to this series decider.
Yeah.
So I think the Maroons New South Wales should be a good game, but one more thing I want to touch on, I think it's a topic that you wanted to touch on, was the second New Zealand team. And there's a bit of talk around the PNG side as well. So just on this one, Keith, what do you reckon? Because you're pretty high on the, obviously, the expansion. You're very high on it. Massive fan of expanding the game as a whole. What are your thoughts here on this general sort of topic that you reckon... Do you think this is a possibility of a second New Zealand team? Because there's a lot of talk about the PNG side and the amount of money that they're putting in. The Albanese government they're putting in $600 million, I think is reported. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'll keep my comments brief because we're obviously pushed for time now. I just sort of heard a few people saying that New Zealand couldn't handle a second team, which I strongly disagree with. I think Christchurch can definitely handle a second New Zealand team. Wellington, I hate the round stadium. Like, it's a beautiful stadium, the Cake Tin, don't get me wrong, but I hate watching rectangular sports played in circular stadiums. But I think, I mean, there's nothing groundbreaking for me to say here in terms of, what seems likely to happen, which is that Papua New Guinea to be named the 18th team and coming in 2028. Perth Bears possibly to be named at the same time as Papua New Guinea, which is probably in the next couple of months, if not 6 weeks. And it's looking like New Zealand were the favourites for that 20th team slot. So for the first time in a long, long time, genuine expansion, not like a second Brisbane team, but genuine expansion. First time since Melbourne Storm? The team outside New South Wales and Queensland has been promoted to the NRL or named created for the NRL. I think that was 1998. We had obviously the Warriors in 1995. Adelaide Rams, short-lived. I'm talking about teams that are still about. So it's good to see a real expansionary sort of agenda for the ARLC finally happening. But I just want to say that New Zealand can definitely handle a second team, particularly, and I suspect Sky New Zealand are willing to actually pay a bit more money to the NRL if there is a second New Zealand team. So that's just my general comments on that, not to be rushed.
Yeah, all good. And anyways, because I think we've gone a bit over the time there. So, just again, I'd like to thank Keith for coming on. Really appreciate him, giving up his time to come on and have a chat. Apologies he couldn't get hold of the ball when Ash on. They were just unavailable. And obviously, I said at the start there, Ash was sick, so hopefully he gets better soon and well. And hold the ball was just too busy to come on where he was originally going to come on. But, he had other things on. But, we'll definitely get them on again soon. We'll definitely get on a few other people like Wise Up Podcast and a few others. So stay tuned to the channel. Make sure you keep an eye out for that once it happens. But thanks Keith for coming on. Really appreciate that. And for giving your time up. And hopefully we'll get you on again real soon. But maybe do a proper expansion stream if you want to talk about the expansion. Have a more dedicated stream for that one. But thanks Keith for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No problem, anytime. And thanks for all the comments. I'll see you guys.
Awesome. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Thanks for everyone for your comments and questions and everything in the chat there. Thanks for interacting. Thanks. Don't forget to make sure you give this live stream and video. If you want to get back a like, click that thumbs up button on the live stream. And if you are a new viewer to the YouTube channel, you haven't done so already, please make sure you're subscribing to the channel, guys. It's absolutely free and all helps the channel to grow and get word about the content as well. And Jose, after the Warriors win the premiership is the only time I wouldn't mind the second team. And Jazz is just saying, shot boys to both boys here. It's an awesome having Aussie Warriors supporters, absolutely, for sure. But that's it. We'll wrap it up. Have a good one, everyone. Have a good night. Enjoy the Origin on Wednesday. Go the Queensland Maroons, up the Maroons, and bring on the rest of the week. Looking forward to the Warriors game on the weekend as well. And I'll be back tomorrow night to preview the Cowboys Warriors with NRL content creator and Cowboys fan Nick from Australia. Tune in for that one. And I'll probably do a stream in the afternoon as well for Teamless Tuesday reaction and give my NRL tips for the upcoming games as well. So stay tuned for that one. But cheers, everyone. Have a good one. And we'll see you all in the next one.